All right. Seems like we're getting pretty close to having everyone logged on. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Leah, Janae, y'all good if I go ahead? Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a great day. Just want to welcome you again to this important work and look forward to continuing this journey with you. Because we have a lot of great work to do, I will be brief, but one of the things I was asked to do is give a brief update about things going on at the department. And obviously the big thing going on is we wrapped up our General Assembly session, which was hugely successful in a lot of different ways, from our 5% teacher raise to our legislation that passed to support this work. In the budget, we were given at the Department a cultural proficiency coordinator and a couple $100,000 to do teacher training in this work, and are certainly excited about that. The governor also, carried through several legislators a bill to support this cultural proficiency work and to require training for teachers, and that cultural proficiency becomes a part of teacher evaluation, and that also passed. And so actually later this week, the Board of Education will be hearing on a second reading, which is usually a final reading, but I don't want to get too far ahead of the board, but the board will be considering our new teacher evaluation model that will include a standard on cultural proficiency and inclusive education. And so we're certainly excited about that and anticipate that the board will take action there. We do have a long-term goal to really revamp our teacher evaluation process, but this is an interim step to make sure that all of our teachers are culturally competent, and are excited about that and excited to see the board take action there. And so that's just a small snippet of the things going on. We're certainly continuing to evolve our roadmap through Leah Walker's office, along with her teammate, Janae. We're looking forward to hiring these additional individuals, and we're continuing to work with our school divisions to develop their work in the equity space with equity audits and everything that you saw in one of our previous meetings. So exciting work coming out of the General Assembly, and we look forward to continuing to lift this work up. So thank you for joining us on this journey. Thank you for continuing to push us to be better, and we will continue to take your advice and put it into action where we can. And so with that, Leah, I know we have public comment next, and I don't know if you're leading us through that, but I will turn it to you.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Lane. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to, I think this is now our third meeting, and we're really looking forward to getting into our work and developing our recommendations. So we will phone was ringing on two different devices. Sorry about that. So we will be moving into our work sessions in just a few minutes, and we want to have ample time for that. But before we do, we want to provide an opportunity for any members of the public to provide public comment at this time to the full committee. So opening up now our attendees who have raised their hands, and I will call on you one-on-one. As a reminder, you have 2 minutes to provide your public comment, and I will go in the order that I saw the hands raised. So we're going to start with Jasmine Kaur Khurana, and I am going to, Janae, can you unmute her?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I have my daughter here with me. I don't know if our video is on, but she's here with me. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak today. My name is Jasmine Kaur Khurana, and I'm a Sikh. I have been living in Virginia for the past 6 years, and I am here with my daughter, Jasnur Kaur, who attends school in the Loudoun County in the 3rd grade. I'd like to commend the Virginia Department of Education for putting together this important, culturally relevant and inclusive education practices committee. I was very heartened to see that this committee is responsible for reviewing and revising the current social studies standards to make recommendations about the untold histories of groups historically underrepresented in America and world history. I'm a member of the Sikh community, and despite Sikhism being the world's 5th largest independent religion, The fact that Sikhs have contributed to the US history for over 125 years, and despite the Sikh community being a sizable and vibrant community here in Virginia for generations, we still remain excluded from Virginia social studies standards. The moment is a critical opportunity to include the untold history of the Sikh community. Unless changes are made to start representing marginalized groups like ours, the standards will not be culturally relevant or inclusive. Students will not be prepared to encounter diversity, and religious minorities like ours will continue experiencing rates of bullying at twice the national average due to our identity. We implore the chairs of your elementary, middle, and high school subcommittees to take note of the changes recommended to the current standards by the Sikh Coalition. These changes were also requested by a number of community members in the recent opportunity for public comment, and we will email you a copy of our testimony alongside the recommendations for the committee's consideration. And thank you for your time. And now my daughter, Jasnoor Kaur, will share a little bit of her experience with you.
My name is Jasnoor Kaur, and I am a third grade student in Loudoun County. I am very proud to be a student in Virginia Public Schools, and I am also very proud to be a Sikh. Even though Sikhism is the 5th largest world religion, when I tell my friends about it, they never know what that is. I haven't really seen anything about Sikhism in any of my classes so far. It would be so cool if my classmates could learn about my identity in the classroom too. Please consider the recommendations by the Sikh Coalition and Sikh community. My mom will email our testimonies and recommendations to you all to look at. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the young lady who joined us. If you can see our committee members clapping, and we always love to hear from students in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So thank you so much for your advocacy this afternoon. Next up is Mr. Norman Hall, and I'm gonna see if I can unmute him because Janae just lost her internet service.
Leah, I'm here.
Okay.
I just promoted him. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I have a video as well. So I'll just start if now I assume is the time. My name is Norm Hall. I have lived in Vienna, Virginia since 1994, have two children who graduated from Fairfax County Schools, and I've worked in education since 2003. I'm a founding member of the Fairfax County Special Education PTA and have served on its advocacy committee. 15% of public education students receive some level of accommodations. While their experiences and needs vary, each child should develop to their full potential. History and social studies are important for the connections that students make with people they identify with. I appear today to advocate for ways to improve the standards through the way that eugenics and the Americans with Disabilities Act are presented. The Eugenical Sterilization Act of 1924 was signed the same day as the Racial Integrity Act. While the Racial Integrity Act institutionalized racism targeting non-white groups, the field of eugenics, assisted by scholars at the University of Virginia, had softer targets. There was no DSM or common diagnostic toolkit to discriminate among vulnerable people. All it took was to have few resources and nobody of power to stand up for you. Common fear of personal differences was a vague threat to upright citizens at the top of local societies then. With pseudoscience, eugenics theory and practice was like pesticide treatment, trying to weed out those who were the most vulnerable and lacked defenders. And backed by laws of the Commonwealth, this led to years of struggles as people with disabilities were dependent upon charity for the possibility of living a life with dignity. Sterilization is the proper term, but in secondary school curricula, maybe it is too detached for students who may not fully grasp that surgeries were done to people without consent. As a reminder, it was novel to have centers for the education of people with autism as late as the 1970s. My 59-year-old brother was only diagnosed within the past 10 years. His differences foreclosed opportunities within schools that were available to me. Curriculum standards that recognize the forces that worked against persons with disabilities from recent years would help this and future generations appreciate the prejudices that linger. But it is also important to point out the positive advances in attitude and recommendations that relate to passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA frames accomplishments without and then with support from mandatory provisions of accessibility. While we all gain benefits from everyday curb cuts that help us navigate any vehicle with wheels, other provisions have contributed to better opportunities for sustained employment, recreational, and commercial activities. Please accept these brief remarks as a placeholder for more substantive messaging from my friends at the SEPTAs in Fairfax, Arlington, and Prince William counties. There are plenty of stories that should be brought to Virginia's students of all abilities. Thank you. I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next public comment. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Ms. Amanda Campbell.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Amanda Campbell, and I am speaking as the Vice President of Fairfax County Special Education PTA. We are a countywide PTA established to support the 29,000 students with disabilities and their families across FCPS. We believe it is imperative for this committee to include the addition of disability history and education in Virginia's social studies and history standards. In 2015, 11.5% of Virginians reported having a disability. Nationwide, that number is close to 20%. And yet somehow, if our schools talk about disability at all, which not all do, we are still focusing on figures from the more distant past. While it is important to learn of figures like Helen Keller, our students with disabilities also deserve and need to see more current representations of themselves in society. Think for a moment how powerful it would be for students with disabilities to learn about figures like Stephen Hawking, Temple Grandin, Judy Heumann, and Haben Girma, just to name a few. We know and research shows that representation matters. Additionally, we teach about the civil rights movement of the 1960s, but we rarely teach anything at all about the fight for civil rights that the disability community has fought for decades. Mr. Norm Hall's comments go to the civil rights history a bit more extensively. Right now, in many ways, parents are taking on the responsibility of teaching about disability. Parents of students with disabilities in elementary school, for example, often volunteer and come in to read to the class about their child's disability and answer questions. I have personally done this every year since my daughter entered kindergarten. Organizations like A Walk in My Shoes, started by a parent at Flores Elementary and FCPS, are created to help simulate for students what it's like to have a disability. PTAs create buddy programs at their schools. The common thread through all of these examples is that they are parent-led. It is time that our schools lead the way on inclusive curricula, and that must include specific steps to teach about disabilities as well as disability history. Social studies and history curricula are designed to teach our students about their communities in the world, of which people with disabilities will always be a part. If we truly mean to encourage a more inclusive environment, disability cannot continue to be left out of the equity conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Paul Norris. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Norris. I live in Vienna, Virginia. I'm here as a concerned citizen, as a parent whose child attended Fairfax County Public Schools, and as an Arab American. As such, I found that several SOLs and their associated curriculum framework contain biased and misleading information regarding Middle Eastern history. I have made comments about this during the public comment period, which ended March 1, and I have also sent my comments to this committee by email. I'd be interested to know what the committee, I'd like to ask what the committee can do about these issues, such as the ones I have submitted. Here's a couple of quick examples. In SOL WH2.11D, under other examples of genocide, why is there no mention of the ethnic cleansing of Palestine? In SOL 2.14D and VUS 0.14B as in boy, why are the examples of terrorism provided only ones in which the perpetrators happen to be Arab or Muslim? That is biased and misleading, and it ignores the fact that terrorism also has a large domestic component, the majority of which is perpetrated by racist and white supremacist groups rather than by Muslims or Arabs. Thank you sincerely for your time and consideration and for all your great work.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. And if you have very specific questions such as those, if you can send them to us by email to edequityva@doe.virginia.gov, we will be happy to forward that on to our subject matter experts who can provide a more comprehensive response for you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I've already sent something, but I'll send a follow-up to make sure.
Great, thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank
Are there
you.
any other individuals seeking to make public comment this afternoon? I don't see any other hands raised. And so I do want to give an opportunity for our chairs to welcome everybody this afternoon before we break out into our workout sessions. And so we'll start with Senator Boysko, followed by Dr. Duran, and then followed by Dean Dare. And then we will be moving into our work sessions, which are available by separate Zoom link. For members of the public who are interested in viewing those sessions, you may find that information on the publicly posted meeting agenda in the public Dropbox. And then finally, before I turn it over to Senator Boysko, I just want to acknowledge and welcome our colleagues and partners at ETS, Ms. Rita Lopez and Ms. Lynette Mahini, who are joining our professional development subcommittee today and providing a briefing on the national landscape related to CR competencies, standards, and legislation that have been occurring across the nation. So with that, I turn it over to Senator Boysko.
Thank you so much, Leah. I am so glad to be here with you all today, and I appreciate especially the public comment. Some of the comments that were made today were exactly why I carried the legislation that has turned into this committee. And I want you to know that in Richmond during the legislative session, as we heard at the beginning of the meeting, that we continue to make progress on this effort. We are committed to making Virginia more inclusive, including our education system. And I just want to thank all of you all for being a part of this. And just thanks for all you do during this difficult time.
Thank you, Senator Boysko. Dr. Duran.
Yes, thank you. And I'm glad to see everyone back together as we're digging into this great work. I know that the work on the standards subcommittee, as we broke out last time, is really digging deep to think about the areas where we have some students and their histories that are invisible in our current standards. And I look forward to the recommendations that we're going to bring forward, where we really have to understand and recognize that not everyone's story is being told. Some stories are being told incorrectly, but most importantly, some stories don't exist at all. And there are many of our students who are invisible in our curriculum. So really excited that that work is moving forward, and I look forward to seeing what everyone in the subcommittees and the larger committee is going to bring forward to not only the state board, but also to the General Assembly and the Senate, and Senator Boysko is here to carry that back to her colleagues, I know, and thank her for her leadership on this. And we're excited to put some of this work into action. So thank you for your participation today.
Thank you, Dr. Duran. And Dean Dare.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to begin by extending just, a sincere appreciation for everyone on this group. The work that we're doing is so very important. The work that we're doing has the potential for just such significant and meaningful impact. And it's been amazing to watch just some of the recent legislative decisions that have been made and how they directly came out of groups just like this, as recent as last summer, the fall, last spring. So this is a group where we're going to be putting forth recommendations that I believe the palette exists to put these things into law. And once we can codify some of these changes, it's really going to point us further in the direction of ensuring excellence and equity for all school children, particularly those who have been historically marginalized and underrepresented. So just want to appreciate everyone for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. So with that, we're going to conclude our full committee meeting and move right into our work sessions. Our work sessions will start promptly at 2:30. So we will see you all in our breakout Zoom meetings. Thanks so much, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all again next month.